Now let's go to the second floor of the White House, and joining us right now is Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Mr. President, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you. With the breaking news on Friday about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died at 87 after serving 27 years on the U.S. Supreme Court. She was, a legendary legal figure. I'm sure you have some things you'd like to say about how this woman had given decades of her life to public service.
Well, she was a legend, and she represented something different than you or I or somebody else may really agree with or like, frankly. But she was a legend. She represented a certain philosophy, policy, certain groups of laws. She represented them very well and highly respected. She actually voted for me in a very important case, and I was shocked, if you want to know the truth, because we lost a couple of conservative votes, and she actually made it possible to get this approved, which was rather amazing, to be honest with you. I don't want to hurt her reputation at all, but she did vote for me in a case that was a very important case, so that was nice. But no, she was a legendary figure.
Well, I know you said you're going to nominate a woman. That's very important to women who are voting in November for women's rights. You said
How about you, Ainsley? I could nominate you, you know. You don't have to be.
Did you go to law school?
You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a judge. I could nominate you.
Do you want to make some news right
now?
Go ahead and make some news right now, Mr. President. Who's it going to be?
She would sail through like nothing. That would be probably a good idea. That way, at least we know for sure she'll be approved.
There are so many women out there.
Stephen and I are going to push back hard.
Yes, I think I'll stay in this seat, but thank you, Mr. President. So you said you'll make the announcement this week. Can you tell us more about that? Will it be the beginning of the week? What day?
I think it'll be on Friday or Saturday, and we want to pay respect. It looks like we will have probably services on Thursday or Friday, as I understand it. I think, due respect, we should wait till the services are over for Justice Ginsburg. And so we're looking probably at Friday or maybe Saturday.
So Friday is going to be the day or Saturday, and we know how this looks like because you've had two dress rehearsals before with Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. Now, we understand Judge Coney Barrett is somebody on your list. We also have Judge Barbara Lagoa of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals and Judge Allison Jones Rushing of the 4th District Court of Appeals. First on Lagoa, this is the first time we had a chance to look at her bio outside legal circles. We know about Judge Barrett. Tell me about Lagoa and what made her a finalist and what might tip the scales her direction.
Well, she's excellent. She's Hispanic. She's a terrific woman from everything I know. I don't know her. Florida. We love Florida. So she's got a lot of things, very smart. They're all very smart. We don't have to say that. There are actually 5 I'm looking at. It's down to 5. And they're all, it could be any one of them. They'll all be great. These are really top people. To get on that list, I created a list. And Biden should do that, too. He's got all radical left, major radical left players. That's why. And if he puts a centrist in, somebody that really should be, somebody that's not so far left that it would be a member of the AOC +3 crowd, he's got a problem. If he puts somebody on that is not going to be popular with a certain group of people, they will all run away from him like the plague.
Mr. President, who's the other two?
I'd rather not say, but they're 2 fantastic people. So I'm looking at 5, probably 4, but I'm looking at 5 very seriously. I'm going to make a decision on either Friday or Saturday. I will announce it either Friday or Saturday. And then the work begins. But hopefully it won't be too much work because these are very qualified people. And no matter how you would look at it, these are, the finest people in the nation, young people, pretty young for the most part.
That's right. So Judge Lagoa, who you apparently are considering, she is 52. She's an appeals judge in the 11th Circuit from Miami. She's the daughter of Cuban exiles and would be the second Latina on the Supreme Court. And I've been reading this morning in the Washington Post it sounds like a lot of people who surround you and perhaps are trying to bend your ear really like her because not only is she a brilliant jurist and she went to, she's got an Ivy League education and things like that, but apparently, she's from Florida. And, given all things being equal, if these 5 women are all of equal standing with the law, some might say, you know what? She's from Florida. He needs to win Florida on election day, so maybe she gets the nod. Is politics going to be part of it?
I try not to say so. I think probably automatically it is. Even if you're not wanting to do that, it becomes a little automatic. A great one from Michigan. You talked that. As you know, Indiana represented very well. We have from all over the country. I think less so than the person themselves. If you look at some of the quality that we have educationally, these are the smartest people. These are the smartest young people. You like to go young because they're there for a long time. And I have a friend who's a genius. He's fantastic. He'd like to be on. He said, I'd love to be on. I said, you're 70 years old. How long are you going to be on before you decide to wrap it up? So, it's one of those things. But you tend to go young, and I think in almost all cases. And you could have somebody be on the bench for 40 or 50 years. These are big decisions.
Sure. So, Mr. President, what I think you're saying is, what I heard you say is essentially you're looking for a brilliant legal mind. And if there is a political benefit for it, maybe that's just a bonus.
Well, you could say that, but we're looking for somebody who's brilliant, really understands the law, and abides by the Constitution, and a good person. We're looking for a good person, a person who's really been somebody that has very, very high moral values.
Josh Hawley was on our show earlier, and he said we have an obligation to our voters to vote the way they want us to vote. That's why they put us in office. So he's going to push to go ahead and fill the seat either before the election or in the lame duck session. Then you have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who told her granddaughter on her deathbed, allegedly, that her dying wish was to have the next president choose her successor. How do you think all this plays out?
Well, I don't know that she said that, or was that written out by Adam Schiff and Schumer and Pelosi. I would be more inclined to the second. Okay, that came out of the wind. It sounds so beautiful. But that sounds like a Schumer deal, or maybe a Pelosi or Shifty Schiff. So that came out of the wind. Let's see. I mean, maybe she did, and maybe she didn't. Look, the bottom line is we won the election. We have an obligation to do what's right and act as quickly as possible. We should act quickly, because we're going to have probably election things involved here, because of the fake ballots that they'll be sending out.
So you can't have a tie.
Terrible situation.
So, Mr. President, you can't have a tie at the Supreme Court.
Well, we don't want to have a tie. No, we don't. And we want to have 9 justices, and we want to have somebody with a lot of talent added to the very talented people we already have on both sides. And it's very important. But, we won the election, and elections have consequences. It's called you pick people from the Supreme Court, and you pick judges too. We're going to have almost about 300 judges at the end of my first term, which will be a record. That's a record. And that happened because President Obama left us a tremendous number of judges that he either couldn't fill or didn't work hard enough, or maybe he thought Hillary was going to win and he didn't push it. But even if you thought she was going to win, I mean, having judges and appointing judges is a very big deal, not only justices of the Supreme Court. And he left us a treasure trove. In fact, I couldn't believe it. I said, how many do we have? And the number was 142. 142. Very rarely does a president leave office and have any.
I know, and you're
going
to
nuggets of gold.
And you're going to have a big
print. Of gold. You don't do that,
Mr. President.
And then they say he was a great president. Well, a real Democrat wouldn't say he was a great president because he left us 142 openings, and then I've added to it by a lot. But we're going to have, could even be slightly over 300 judges, and that's a record. Well, that's another achievement because, I've always heard that judges and justices of the Supreme Court are the most important thing a president does. I think actually it's the military, defense, et cetera, et cetera. We've rebuilt our military in addition everything else. But I think, I've heard, and you've heard always, that the most important thing that you do is judges, but also justices of the Supreme Court. They actually usually say justices of the Supreme Court. It's a big deal.
Yeah, an impact beyond your years in office.
But
so, Mr.
Brian,
President,
we did. We won the election, and we have the right to do it, and we have plenty of time.
Right.
We have a lot of time.
But listen,
it's not like we're tied.
Do you think?
And I think it should be. I think the final vote, should be taken, frankly, before the election. We have plenty of time for that.
So
Many
you
have
do.
done it in less.
So you do believe that this vote should happen before November 3rd?
Yeah, I think it should go very quickly. We have a lot of time, especially the people we're talking about. Most of them are young, and they've gone through the process very recently.
And, Mr. President,
we're not saying who, but pretty much they've all gone through the process very recently. So they're.
What if your political?
We're not going to find so much.
Right.
They've been there for 2 years. They've been there for a year.
Well, who knows?
We have one person who's very qualified, who's extremely good, who's, I believe, 38 years old. So that would mean she could be there for 50 years.
Right. They'll go back to our high school yearbook. We already know that.
The Democrats are thrilled about that.
Mr.
They
President,
love the idea of somebody who's 38 who can be in the court for 50 years.
Right. I get the sarcasm. Mr. President,
Their heads are exploding.
What if it costs you the Senate? What if it costs Cory Gardner a seat, Joni Ernst his seat? It might help Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, but it could hurt others who are on the cusp with more battleground type states.
If you have the vote before November 3rd.
Well, I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help Cory. I do. I think it's going to help Cory Gardner. He's a great guy, by the way, and very, very loyal to the party and loyal to his state. He loves his state. I mean, I know that for a fact. I think it's going to help Mitch. I think it's going to help everybody if they do it wrong. I think if they do it as they should be doing, it's going to help everybody. I think it's going to help our country. You want to know the truth? If we do it.
Well, Democrats don't feel that way.
Fast.
Democrats are incensed. They're threatening to throw out the Electoral College.
Election. And you know what? They might win an election. Hopefully it's not going to be this one, but they might win an election, and then they're going to have their pick for themselves. But, losing elections, that has consequences. It's like that means the other side gets to pick Supreme Court justices, which is, a big deal.
Yep.
Because it sort of sets the tone. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a very big deal. We picked two great ones, and I have a third. And, I'm very lucky because rarely does a president have this opportunity to pick. Not only that, so many judges, close to 300, but also, and appeals court judges, but also, very importantly, three. Some presidents never get to pick any because, again, they stay there for a long time, 35 years and 40 and 45 years. So a lot of presidents don't get to pick Supreme Court justices, and here I am in one term. I get to pick three, so that's very important.
That certainly is going to be part of your presidential legacy. Here we've talked to you. We're 43 days away from the election. We haven't really talked about Joe Biden. He was out and about yesterday in Philadelphia, and he had this observation about what you want to do. Listen.
The people of this nation are choosing their future right now as they vote. To jam this nomination through the Senate is just an exercise in raw political power. And I don't believe the people of this nation will stand for it. President Trump has already made it clear this is about power, pure and simple power.
Well, you made it clear, Mr. President, elections have consequences. We heard that a number of years ago. But Chuck Schumer then went on and said, if they do this, nothing is off the table. And in other words, they might get rid of the filibuster or they might pack the Supreme Court. Those are real threats. But then again, they've been making the same threats about doing that for the last year.
So, number one was Joe Biden. Was he reading that off a teleprompter as usual? Because so far,
I think it was.
He's even done news conferences, and they give him the questions. I've never seen this. Nobody's ever given me the questions. They give him the questions, and it looked like he was reading it off a teleprompter. Everything's off a teleprompter. I don't know what's going on, but it's sort of crazy. No, they're being very threatening, and they even said that if I do it, they're going to impeach me. Well, they impeached me for a perfect phone call to say congratulations to the president of Ukraine. And then they said the call was different than that. They made up, Shifty Schiff made up a call, and he said horrible things, and everyone thought I made that call, but that wasn't it. Thank goodness it was transcribed perfectly. But, you know, that was and I guess we won with the Republican Party 197 to nothing in the House. And they did that, you know, they did that. So I heard yesterday, if I do it, they're going to impeach me. So they're impeaching me for doing what constitutionally I have to do. Here's the thing. We have and I think then we win the election. Then we win all elections if they do that.
So it sounds like you're encouraging her.
Last time, my numbers went way up.
Mr. President,
Last
are you
time they did it, but
are you encouraging her to impeach you so you win?
No, if they do, I think my numbers will go up. I think we'll win the entire election. I think we'll win back the House. I think we're going to win the House. I really do. I think we're going to win the House anyway. I think that would help those senators. I think that, you know, you mentioned the senators. I think Susan Collins is very badly hurt by her statement yesterday, and I think Murkowski is very badly hurt, and she doesn't run for 2 years, but I think this will follow her into the beautiful, and it is a beautiful state of Alaska. It's a beauty. I think nobody's done what I've done for Alaska, I can tell you, with ANWR and with a certain highway that they couldn't get approved for about 40 years that I got it done. I always say nobody's ever done so much for so little with Murkowski. Nobody's ever done so much for so little. I think she'll be really hurt badly in 2 years. And I think that Susan Collins is going to be hurt very badly. Her people aren't going to take this. People are not going to take it. So that's it. I mean, if they want to go against, but don't forget, we were put in this position by voters, and we have a lot of time. It's not like we have 2 days. We have a lot of time as this goes. Whether it's before or after, I think it should go. We have a lot of time before. I think it should go before. But whether it's before or after, I mean, after we have a lot of time. But I think we should do it before. But we you know,
so you might do it in the
Democrats were in the same position. There is zero chance that they wouldn't do it. Just so you understand.
So you're putting it on the
pack the courts.
So if the shoe were on the other foot, if there was a Democratic president and a Democrat Senate, you think they would definitely fill the seat before?
Oh, zero chance that they wouldn't. They would do it. They wouldn't even talk about it. They'd say you're crazy. What are you crazy? And Biden made that statement before. If you go back, he made the statement before. I'm sure he doesn't remember it, but he made that statement before. So if the shoe was on the other foot, as they say, there would be no chance that they wouldn't be doing it. They'd be doing it, and they'd be doing it probably a lot faster than we'll do it.
All right, Mr. President, my last thing on this is people are listening right now and saying, wait a second, President Obama had Merrick Garland nominated 9 months before his last day in office, before the election, and Republicans said it's too close to an election. And now they're saying Republicans are hypocrites, saying we're going to push this through, you included. Is there a difference in your mind? Do you understand where they're coming from?
So I think Merrick Garland is an outstanding judge. I think he's outstanding, and I think he's an outstanding intellect. He is liberal. That's okay. But the only problem was, and this is up to the Senate, the only problem was President Obama did not have the Senate. I mean, I could go a step further. President Obama didn't get a lot of judges, and I just told you 142 judges. And he didn't get a lot of judges, though, because you know why? He didn't have the Senate. So, again, that's an election of a different kind. We had the Senate, and the Senate didn't want to do that, and Mitch didn't want to do that. So there's a difference. When you have the Senate, when you have the votes, you can sort of do what you want as long as you have it. So now we have the presidency, and we have the Senate, and we have every right to do it, and we have plenty of time. Right. Now, if this took place one day, we had 1 day or 5 days or 10 days, I don't know, maybe you could do it then, but that would start to look a little bit bad. But we have a tremendous amount of time. I mean, far more than other justices, if you look back, you know, that it took for other justices. We have a lot of time, tremendous amount of time. I think it should be voted on and done before the election. I think that would be good for the Republican Party, and I think it would be good for everybody to get it over with, because it's always controversial. And no matter who I pick, no matter how great the intellect, how brilliant the person, and they're all brilliant with all great intellect, no matter how incredible the education, they all have incredible education. No matter how good the Democrats will say, this is terrible, this is terrible, no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter how good a deal I make, when I make these great deals for our country, they'll always say, oh, we don't like it, even though they don't know it. They didn't like USMCA. It's a great deal. They didn't like it. They said, we don't like it. But I said, you never saw it because I've never revealed what it is. We still don't like it because that's the way they are. It's a shame. Very bad for the country. No matter how great this person is, they will not like the person.
That's right, because it has all become political, unfortunately, these days, and everybody knows that. Mr. President, I know you're going to get on Air Force One. You're flying out to Ohio today. You're going to address the fight for the American worker. Ever since the pandemic started and the economy cratered, the Federal Reserve, looking forward, they were a little pessimistic. But a couple of days ago, the Federal Reserve actually was quite optimistic. And in fact, they talked about how right now we're in a situation where we have 3 million more jobs than they thought we would at this stage of the game.
That's right.
And $600 billion more economic activity over and above what they expected just 3 months ago. So while we are still suffering from the pandemic, there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
So we're rounding the corner. With or without a vaccine, they hate it when I say that, but that's the way it is. We're rounding the corner on the pandemic, and we've done a phenomenal job, not just a good job, a phenomenal job, other than public relations, but that's because I have fake news. I can't, you can't convince them of anything. They're fake. But we have done, on public relations, I give myself a D. On the job itself, we take an A+ with the ventilators and now with the vaccines that are years ahead of schedule. If Biden, who ran the swine flu, he was the swine flu, it's the H1N1, which he reverses. He calls it the N1H1 because he doesn't have a good memory. But if Biden, on the swine flu, if he ran this like he did the swine flu, from 2 to 2.5 to 3 million people would have died. The swine flu that he ran was a disaster. And the person that ran it, who I think you've had on your show, admitted that they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it was I don't even know why he was so negative, but maybe he was honest. It was a total disaster, a much less lethal situation in terms of the flu itself. That was a flu. Ours is a virus, but it was a much less lethal situation, but it was handled so badly. They lost thousands and thousands of people. And they agreed that they handled it badly. Now he's telling us how to handle this. And we don't need his advice. We really don't want his advice. We'd like them to be honest because that's good for the country. Be honest. For instance, everybody wanted the vaccine. They wanted it so badly. Once they realized I'm getting it very soon, within a matter of weeks, once they said, oh, he's getting it, then they started hating the concept of having the vaccine. That's so bad for our country. And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
they're doing really well. Pfizer
right.
and other companies. Actually, we have 3 that are really doing really well. It's
Mr. President,
soon.
You just said weeks. How close are we?
Well, I would say that you'll have it long before the end of the year, maybe by the end of October.
What company? Which one is closest?
Well, Pfizer's doing really well. I tell you, Pfizer's doing really well. Johnson & Johnson has an incredible vaccine that's really doing well. They'll probably be a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And Moderna is doing very well also. And Oxford, on the other side, Oxford, and we're very much involved with that also.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So we're doing really well, and one of the reasons we're doing well is because what we did with the FDA. Normally, if this were Obama and Biden, they wouldn't have this vaccine for another 2.5 years because they wouldn't have been able to get through the process of the FDA. Total safety, by the way, total safety. It's number one. But if this were up to them, if they had it instead of us, what I did with the FDA was very good. And we speeded the process up to a point where we're going to have them in a matter of weeks. They wouldn't have had it for 2.5 years.
Gotcha.
Bill Gates was on with Chris Wallace yesterday, and he said the travel ban that you implemented in January might have worsened the pandemic. Listen to this.
This rush, and we didn't have the ability to test or quarantine those people. And so that seeded the disease here. The ban probably accelerated that the way it was executed.
You're saying that the travel bans made the situation worse, not better?
March saw this incredible explosion, the West Coast coming from China, and then the East Coast coming out of Europe. And so even though we'd seen China and we'd seen Europe, that testing capacity and clear message of how to behave wasn't there.
Mr. President, what's your reaction?
Well, here we go with Gates. It's always Gates, and here we go. This is a new one that I hear for the first time. I heard it yesterday, actually, and I listened to Chris. Got a good show. But I said, here we go, Gates again. And frankly, we did quarantine, and we were careful. The people that came in were all Americans. So what are we going to do, say you can't come back? They wanted to come back because they wanted to get out of Wuhan province, which was, heavily infected. And because of the fact that we knew it was heavily infected, we had quarantine. We were very careful, and did some slip by, perhaps. But this is a new one. This is a Democrat talking point.
Right.
The interesting thing is 2 months later, everybody agreed that I did the right thing. So 2 months later, Sleepy Joe said, well, he did the right thing. He absolutely did the right thing. I didn't know if it was an apology or did he just say that. But everybody agreed I did. Dr. Fauci agreed. Dr. Fauci was against it because he didn't think the problem would ever be that big. And there was nothing wrong with, I'm not saying one way or the other, good or bad. I'm just saying he was against it. And then, a couple of months later, he really wanted it. And by the way, Dr. Fauci said, I saved tens of thousands of lives. So he disagrees with Gates. But most of them say, well, I haven't heard anybody say that what I did was a bad thing. Now, Gates is, going with a new Dem talking point. You'll be hearing that one. I guarantee you that.
Mr. President,
but we were very careful, and we did quarantine people.
Mr. President, you're not going to believe it, but the House, Democratic-controlled House Foreign Relations Committee came out with the conclusion that China and the WHO lied to the world, and they could have stopped the pandemic in Wuhan had they acted honestly, openly, and candidly with the rest of the world. Knowing that President Xi called you right around that time and you had this conversation, you made the comment, I think he's being transparent. Clearly, he was lying. How does it feel to be lied to by the president of China, and what kind of cost will he pay with that? You said you haven't spoken to him since.
I have not spoken to him since, and we made a great trade deal. We did the biggest corn purchase, the biggest soybean purchase, the biggest cattle purchase in our history from China purchasing from us. But I view it differently. The trade deal is a great deal that we made, but I view it differently. We're taking in tremendous amounts of dollars on tariffs, billions and billions of dollars. We never took in 10 cents under Biden and Obama. They didn't have a clue. They had no idea what they were doing. We've made this great deal, and we're taking in billions and billions of dollars, and yet I have a whole different feeling on China. It's just a very different
But
feeling.
even that's measured. Because, Mr. President, you're even being measured with that compared to where you usually are. They really are responsible for the deaths of 200,000 Americans that committees and analysts are saying that could have been stopped in their country. Are they going to be allowed to get away with that?
Every time I speak. I say it every time I speak, Brian. I'm angry at them because they could have stopped this. They could have stopped it easily. They stopped it from going back further into their country, but they didn't stop it from going out to the rest of the world, of which we're a part. They didn't stop it from coming here in Europe and all over the world, 188 countries to be exact. They did not stop it. Countries are devastated. Now they're having a big outbreak in Europe. They just had a big outbreak. And as you know, you probably saw different parts of Europe. Everyone said what a great job they did. And they had a great outbreak.
And if you don't mind, I just have
much better.
There's a video out now.
Much better than Europe.
There's a video out now from Reuters has it out. There's a video out of China's Air Force rocketing Guam. And that's meant to intimidate Taiwan. You just send somebody there. They had exercises during that period. They steamrolled Hong Kong. They're using this opportunity to take advantage of the distraction. How are you going to counter something like that?
Well, I won't be telling you that, but they know they've got some big problems, okay? If they play around, if they want to play the game, they've got some big problems. So you'll just have to follow that one on the news, Brian. But you'll be the first to get there, and you'll probably be the first to know.
So stay tuned for that. Mr. President, you mentioned Chris Wallace a couple of minutes ago. It's just a week from tomorrow night that Chris Wallace will be moderating the first debate, you versus Joe Biden. You'll be on the same stage for the first time. when you look at him as a debate competitor, an opponent, Joe Biden was in the U.S. Senate for decades. He debated for a very, very long time. When you look at the vice presidential debate, he and Paul Ryan, I mean, he was aggressive during much of it, and then at the end, the experts said Joe Biden really did a good job and beat Paul Ryan hands down. As you look to combating Joe Biden, what are you thinking?
Well, look, I think he's a professional. I don't know if he's all there, but I think he's a professional. I have to assume that he's a professional and that he can debate. I don't understand what's going on. He doesn't seem to be answering questions, and he can't answer questions. And much worse, a little while ago, when he was on the stage with the Democrats, he couldn't do well. He did okay with Bernie. It was sort of a tie. It was nothing great. I always say it wasn't Winston Churchill, but it was okay. It was fine. So I don't know why all of a sudden he did better than he did, because he was horrible when he was debating the Democrats. If you look at Pocahontas, just destroyed him. And Kamala, as we call her, Kamala, it's got to be Kamala, like a comma, she said, like a comma. She was so horrible to him. She was terrible. What she said to him was terrible. I'll tell you what, I watched that, and I'm shocked that he picked her, because he was so treated so badly by Kamala, and then he picks her. I don't know how you can pick. Plus, she was going way down in the polls, so usually you like somebody that's rising, not going down. She was going down. She was out. She was gone. But there was nobody that treated her, including Elizabeth Warren. Nobody treated him worse than his vice presidential pick. But I have to assume that he's going to do great, and because he's been there 47 years, he's been in the public service.
Yep.
It's a long time. But the one thing I'd also say is he's been there a long time. Why hasn't he done all the stuff that he said he's going to do? You know, he says, oh, gee, I wish we did this or I wish we did that. I've done more in 47 months than he's done in 47 years. And that's absolutely true. But why hasn't he done? You know, he complains, oh, well, we should have done this, we should have done that. Well, you know, it wasn't like he left 25 years ago. 3.5 years ago, he was there. And why hasn't he done the same things that I've been doing? And he copied, you know, in a bad version, it's a bad copy, but he plagiarized. He copied what we did with the pandemic. He comes out with a report. It's everything that we've done. You know, we're working with the great generals and admirals and doctors and everything. But what we're doing is the same things that he said we should be doing. And we are rounding the turn. We are actually rounding the turn. We've done a great job, including coming up with thousands of ventilators a month, which are very hard to get and very hard to build and complicated. We're helping other countries. But we've done a job, and now you really have to see. We'll have to see with the vaccines, but you're going to have vaccines. We already have therapeutics. Remdesivir has been tremendously successful. We have great therapeutically, it's been incredible, but we have things coming out that are going to be even much better. So we have a lot of great things. We just unleashed the geniuses in the labs and private industry. It's been incredible to watch, actually. And you'll see that better in a few weeks.
Mr. President, what do you say about campaigning, raising money? Because the Biden campaign has $141 million more cash on hand than the Trump campaign. And I hear they're running ads in these battleground states constantly.
Well, they've always had more money than the Republicans. It's sort of a funny thing. We have a lot, but, you know, look, when I ran against crooked Hillary, I had 25% of the money that she had, and nobody ever talked about that. So I had a small amount of the money that Hillary Clinton had. She's still saying, what happened? She said the other day, what happened? What happened? Darling, does anyone know what happened? She spent all that money, and nobody ever gave me credit. You know, my father taught me if you can do something and win for less, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Right.
I actually got criticized after I won the election. They said, you know, he didn't have the money, didn't raise as much money as her. I said, yeah, but I won. I know, but he didn't raise. They actually criticized me because I spent less money and won, which I've never figured that one out.
But
I've never figured that out.
But you're out.
But
you're being.
No, I think we're going to do very well. We have a lot of money. I mean, how much money do you need? You need yourself.
But you're being outspent 2-1, and he's got $100 million more in cash. You said that you would put your own money in. Does that still stand? If
I
you
would do that. Well, I've already put a lot of money in the first time, and I would do it if we needed money, but we don't need money. We have a lot of money too. But they picked up because this is a big event, but it's a big event for Republicans. I haven't seen what we've done. And I must tell you, I could raise so much money if I took one day and just started making phone calls to rich people. But I don't like doing that. I never did.
But you don't have the NRA
obligated.
this time. It's hurting, isn't it? They're only giving you $9 billion. Last time you had like $80 billion. How much does that hurt?
The NRA, they're trying to destroy them in New York. They're in a fight because New York State is trying to destroy the NRA. I told the NRA, you had to move to Texas or move to Oklahoma or move someplace where you'd be loved. To get out of New York. They're being sued by the Attorney General, and it's terrible what they're doing to the NRA. Yeah. So, no, well, the NRA's given me their ultimate endorsement, the greatest endorsement they've ever given, the strongest endorsement. But they're spending all of their money on fighting the Attorney General of New York. They're trying to destroy the NRA, and that's a shame. That's a shame. And the reason they're trying to do that is because you're right. They were a big donor and a big backer. And I think they gave us $35 million, somebody told me. And, right now they're trying to fight for their lives. And I told them a year ago, you ought to just leave, pick up and leave and go to Texas or someplace where they want you, Florida, someplace where they want you. And they didn't listen to that advice, but they have given me a tremendous endorsement. But, Brian, I can get so much money in one day. Give me one day and a telephone. I could get all these rich people that I know very well to put up millions of dollars apiece.
But why wouldn't you do that?
The problem is I'm then obligated. No, I'm obligated to all of them. I don't like being obligated. Okay. When I go against the drug companies, as an example, I'm going to drop medicine prices down 50, 60, 70% with my favored nations. Nobody else was willing to exercise a favored nations list. And I was, because I'm not indebted to them. They didn't give me money. And I'm not indebted to them, or not that I know of anyway, but I'm not indebted to the drug companies. It's great to not be, they have such control over politicians. Let's be nice. Over politicians. I'm sure they gave a lot of money to the Democrats. They're the number one in the country. They're the number one, the drug companies. Big Pharma, they call it. Now, I could call them. I could get so much money, but then I'm not going to be able to drop your drug prices down 70%. And I'm doing that, and now they put on lies. The only one that lies more are the Biden ads. Everyone is totally false. They are really, it's called disinformation. Right. They make up a lie and they do an ad. The drug companies really are doing the same thing. So now I'm getting ads, all because the drug prices are coming way down. And you watch the ads, they talk about Medicare, it's all coming down because of what I'm doing. Germany pays a tiny fraction of what we pay. Canada pays much less. Every country pays less than us. And what I'm doing is, said, it's a favored nations. We're going to pay the lowest price of any country in the world. That's the price we're paying. It's going to drop prices down 70, 80%. But, for that, I get hit. But I could raise all the money I want. I just don't want to be obligated to people. That's not my thing. And we don't need the money.
Well, we like low prices, but you know that, Mr. President. Real quick, about TikTok. The administration okayed the sale because it's a Chinese entity, okayed it to be purchased by Oracle and Walmart. And you said that's good because China's not going to have anything to do with it. But apparently BitDance, which is the company in China, they say they're going to still own 80% of TikTok. So there will be Chinese involvement. And apparently this morning they told one of the wires that the $5 billion education fund that you spoke of, they've never heard about it. They don't know what that is. So could you just explain for us what's going on with that?
So they will have nothing to do with it, and if they do, we just won't make the deal. Oracle, Larry Ellison, a great company, great guy, and as you know, Walmart is Walmart. It's great, and they have a partnership, and they are going to buy it. They're going to have total control over it. They're going to own the controlling interest. Everything is going to be moved into a cloud done by Oracle. It's all through the cloud. And it's going to be totally controlled by Oracle. And then I guess they're going public, and they're buying out the rest of it. They're buying out a lot. And if we find that they don't have total control, then we're not going to approve the deal.
Okay.
If they do have, it would be nice to keep the technology. It would also be nice because it's good competitively with others. You know, having the competition for Facebook and others would be good. But we will be watching it very closely. On a preliminary basis, we like the fact that these are two great companies that do it. Larry would do a good job, and Walmart is, great. And Walmart wants to do something very special. Great American companies, but they will have total control. And ultimately, they're taking the rest of it public, and they'll be bringing that number way down. But that number will not have any control. It's all going to be run by Walmart and by 100% and Oracle. But
Okay.
we'll see what happens. If we think there's any control or there's any lack of security. Now, when the Democrats hear a call like this, they'll say, we don't like the deal, but it's going to bring 25,000 jobs, and it's going to be located in Texas. And they look forward to doing it. They're moving it to Texas, so they're moving it into our country. And I like it, but we'll see how it comes out. It's got to be, there can be zero security risk.
Okay. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming on this morning to talk about this breaking news and the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. President. Good luck in Ohio later today.